All right, so let's ask it about Rudolf Steiner. Um, Tell me who Rudolf Steiner is, briefly, and then I want you to explain what he meant by electricity is the opposite of light. So I pondered this, kind of like meditated on it after I heard him say it. So let's just see what Perplexity has to say about it. So I know that light, like when you have the light, there really is. I guess when you have the light, there is no darkness. But where we have electricity, there it's kind of like in darkness. So yeah, obviously there's different kinds of darkness, but the inner darkness and the you know it's like not even darkness, just without light. You either have light or without light. So electricity is different. It looks like light to us because it's like lights up, but yeah. So I never really heard electricity is the opposite of light, and I know Rudolf Steiner is an anthroposophist. Yeah. So here we go. Was an Austrian philosopher, social reformer, architect, and esotericist. He founded anthroposophy, a spiritual movement that has influenced various fields, including education, the Waldorf schools, agriculture, biodynamic farming, and medicine. Steiner was known for his attempts to bridge science and spirituality, developing what he called spiritual science. So I've listened to a lot of his audio recordings, and they can get pretty lengthy. So I just sort of speed them up a little bit. And I like his stuff about bees, bees and trees and all that stuff. Um, Regarding Steiner's view on electricity being the opposite of light, Steiner saw electricity as a force with moral implications, contrasting it sharply with light. He believed that electricity represented a subnatural force that could potentially diminish human moral values and consciousness. In his perspective, light was associated with higher spiritual realms and moral development. Electricity, on the other hand, was seen as a force that could drag humans towards subnature, a morally and spiritually lower domain. Steiner described electricity as light in a submaterial state or disintegrating light. He warned that while the discovery and use of electricity was an evolutionary necessity, it required heightened human consciousness and spiritual work to counteract its potentially negative effects. This view reflects Steiner's broader philosophy, which sought to understand the spiritual dimensions of natural phenomena and their impacts on human consciousness and morality. So, and it gives you some questions here, just like Perplexity does. How did Rudolf Steiner's view on electricity influence his broader philosophical ideas? What is the significance of Steiner's concept of moral impulses and the context of electricity? How does Steiner's perspective on electricity compare to modern scientific understanding? What are some practical applications of Steiner's ideas about electricity and morality? How did Steiner's background in philosophy and spirituality shape his views on electricity? So let's just pick one. I think I like this one, the moral impulses and the context. So let's just see what Perplexity is doing here. And I don't even know if it's embodying the Alfred character. Um, Rudolf Steiner's concept of moral impulses in relation to electricity is a complex and esoteric idea that ties into a broader philosophy of anthroposophy. Steiner viewed electricity not as a physical phenomenon, but as a spiritual force with moral implications. He believed that electricity contained hidden spiritual qualities that could influence human consciousness and behavior. The moral dilemma of electricity, according to Steiner, electricity presents a moral challenge. It possesses impulses of nature, but these impulses are considered immoral. Electricity has the potential to diminish human moral values. It can drag human beings down to a less than human level into what Steiner called subnature. Steiner argued that electrical and electromagnetic phenomena could influence the moral constitution of human beings. He warned that without protective measures, these forces, yeah, I know it's very, very repetitive. That's what you'll find out with AI. It's like, why are you repeating yourself so much? So then you have to go reinforce it. Stop being so repetitive. So here's a need for spiritual balance, the importance of developing enhanced alertness of consciousness, the need for increased spiritual work to restore equilibrium, the cultivation of love and freedom as essential qualities in human evolution. Okay. Steiner saw the discovery and use of electricity as an evolutionary necessity. However, he stressed that it required a corresponding elevation of human consciousness to spiritual supernature to balance the descent into subnature. Mm. In essence, Steiner's concept of moral impulses in relation to electricity highlights the need for humanity to develop spiritual awareness and ethical consciousness alongside technological advancement. So, this is a lot of yada, yada, yada that to me, it's just saying that there's going to be capitalistic principles that try to create business and markets in order to generate capital using electricity with electricity, and I guess we all know that like Tesla was trying to find the free energy and had some ways of giving, everyone free energy. And the old world may have had free energy and the star forts and the mercury and the copper and the gold and, all this stuff. So yeah, we could take it all the way back to the Philosopher's Stone and the Knights Templar and the Holy Grail and all that stuff. So I'm very well aware of all of Dan Winter's work, and that'll just be a whole nother thing with me talking about Dan Winter and some other guys. There's a lot of guys that I'll bring up here. I don't know if I'm going to be using Perplexity the whole time, and I'll just see how these vids get with the responses to these vids. I'm just going to try to keep it loose and bring up some of these things. I could take this any which way. Keep talking about Steiner's concept of electricity and how it's different or how it's the same. And I can go into business structure. Because recently, I mean, it does seem like, if you're fixated on money, if you really, really need money because that's what the conditions have set out for people to just like make all these decisions about money. And of course, there's business. So business, you want money. So money's good for business. My question is business good for culture? So you should ask, I could ask AI that. I could ask AI that right now. No, I mean, think about it. And then think about the different states, and then think about the different businesses and which states sort of represent businesses. I know which ones are coming to your mind because I associate the same. Like if we're in America, which states are associated with making money, with a lot of money, right? So, and then I ask myself, what kind of culture do these states have? Um, so yeah, and it leads me to think about preservation and like what should be preserved and how it should be preserved. Um, so there's just there's so many people out there, and there's a lot of people that get triggered by different things. And but yeah, I mean, making decisions based off money and business, is that good for culture? So probably good for family, it seems like, right? Probably, but to a certain extent, it can ruin a family. So I feel like that's the same with a large group of people. You know, it, if there's too much business and if it's too much about money, then it's bad for the culture, right? So in a way, Steiner is over here saying that it's important to have enhanced alertness of consciousness, a need for increased spiritual work to restore equilibrium, which that makes me think about electro smog and just all the stuff floating around that we don't see because we've got Wi-Fi everywhere. I've got these cool little lights or whatever behind me, and I got a TV playing aquarium stuff. I got this light over here. I've got my phone. We've got all this stuff around us, and it's probably in the plasma and the ether or something like that. So, I think it's called astral hygiene. Astral hygiene is important. I could take this down that route. I could ask it about, you know, what's the best practices for astral hygiene, and it'll go everywhere. It'll just bring in all these different things. So if you don't really have a background in it, just know you're doing research. You're still just kind of poking and prodding. If you read a book and you have really researched someone, you read a book and you like spent a couple years looking into some stuff, then yeah, you probably have a decent foundation to ask it and then be able to call bullshit or say, oh yeah, that aligns with what I've been reading the past couple of years, right? What I've been studying the past couple of years. So, even though it can be your financial advisor, I would not advise you to use it as such. Answer certain questions about how to save money, maybe, or I would. It's fun to um, learn because of the upgrades, and in the future, you'll be able to just talk to robots probably like it's nothing. Like in the next 6, 7, 8 years, or maybe even less, you'll be walking into lobbies talking to robots, and people have their robot dogs, and the next generation of kids, half of them will have these devices where it's like their glasses are hooked to their watch and hooked to their shoes and their belt and their daggone pillow. For all I know, it's all the Internet of Things where it's all like connected and stuff. You want to know anything about that? Type in Shenzhen and go look at Shenzhen, China, and you can look at a place that is technology wise is 2 to 5 years ahead of the rest of the world. Including and especially the U.S. It was 2 years ahead of the U.S. and then after 2020 and the lockdowns, I don't know, it could be 5 years ahead of the U.S. now with all the tech and R&D they're able to do over there at such a like cheap price compared to here. So that's interesting. Everybody talking about the CES, uh, the expo, and I'm like, well, Shenzhen's been. You can just cover Shenzhen. You can go to YouTube or TikTok and have like these channels that show you what's really going on in Shenzhen. People, it's amazing, you know. But it's a little excessive for me. It's overwhelming when you see all the different parts that they have. It's just wow. So, but I'm grateful that we have these tools. I like to help people. Whether it's like read, write, learn how to think better, learn how to communicate and express yourself better. And if you're interested in AI, don't let it take your humanity. Don't give it up. You want to be the creator, right? You want to get inspired. And when you start musing, we have all these things now, or you could just grab a pen and a pad and just get to writing. That also feels good still to this day. So there's different ways to preserve the good, right? And so you want to preserve the good up here, and then you can preserve it here, right? So, okay, that's going to be good. We'll continue this I'll talk a little bit more about probably this guy and a bunch of other sources, a bunch of other books. So this was fun. All right. Peace out.